Welcome back to the Triple Threat Podcast. My name is Ishan Sheth. Alongside me, as always, is William and Ishan. And today we're going to be talking about some of the head coaching hires in the NFL and some other coordinators and some of their staff members. So we're going to be listing them from worst to best. And we will be starting in Houston with David Culley. So give me your thoughts on Culley.
It's the whole process Houston had is been completely mismanaged. So David Culley, he's a disciple. A disciple of Andy Reid. He's been with Andy Reid and Andy Reid's coaching staff for years. He worked with him in KC. He worked with McDermott, who was a disciple of Andy Reid. He worked with Jim Harbaugh. John Harbaugh in Baltimore. He's been working with the Andy Reid tree for a while, so he's very familiar with that system. A system that Deshaun Watson wanted. Problem is, you have the system right in front of you. The latest version. Like, if you think about like a software, you have the latest version of the software right here. You could hire Eric Bieniemy, a younger, better coach. Nah, I'm good. I mean, if I'm Eric Bieniemy, I probably would have just said no. But the fact is, they didn't interview him at first. They didn't even talk to him until Deshaun Watson made them. And then the league had to have some special request to allow them to interview him because the week for interviews already had been completed, and he had to coach in the Super Bowl. So they had to have some whole finagling just to get the Texans to have an interview with him. Speaking of guys they interviewed Joe Brady. Would have been a solid hire. They interviewed Jim Caldwell twice. Jim Caldwell was a good coach for the Lions. I think he would have been, if you were looking for like a veteran leader just to come in and fix up the shop, which Houston needs, and I think Culley might be able to do, but Caldwell would have been a much better hire for that. They interviewed Culley. They interviewed Matt Eberflus, who's a really good, solid defensive coordinator, a little bit vanilla with the Colts, but still very good defensive coordinator. Leslie Frazier, assistant head coach for the Bills, an incredible defensive mind. They were going to interview him twice, but they already made the hire for Culley. So I would thought that would have been a better hire. They interviewed their offensive coordinator, Tim Kelly. Don't think that would have been a good hire at all. No. The fact that they interviewed was pretty sad, but that might have just been like a courtesy thing. But if they actually were serious, then I don't know. Marvin Lewis, probably would have been better than Culley if you wanted a veteran just to come in and fix up shop. Josh McCown. I never understood this one.
That caught me off guard.
The fact they interviewed a practice squad quarterback who was still playing, not to be the quarterback's coach, not to be the OC, not to be some passing quarterback, to be the head coach of the team. What on earth? Like, you talk to Deshaun. All right, who do you like? Josh McCown's my friend. I like him. You should bring him back this year. All right. Deshaun probably meant quarterback coach. Nah. He's gonna be your head coach. Like, who thought of that? Like, that is just insane.
I feel bad for the city of Houston.
And then they interviewed Brandon Staley, who was hired by the Chargers. So they had a lot of good options. And they probably picked one of the worst ones. But they didn't interview Saleh. They didn't interview Smith. They didn't interview Daboll. They didn't interview a lot of guys. So Texans, they hired a staff of for $1 million to give them 5 names for their head coach and for their GM hire. And they didn't pick any of them. They picked Nick Caserio because they wanted to hire him. They hired a data analytics team to find them a GM, and they didn't hire any of them that they recommended. So if that doesn't tell you what's happening with the power structure in Houston, I don't know what does. But as for Culley, he has some very interesting stats. So he started in Kansas City and was I think might have been the offensive coordinator or the quarterback's. Oh, he was the receivers coach.
He was a receiver coach.
The receiver coach the year that the Chiefs had 0 receiving touchdowns by receivers. He then went to Buffalo, where he had Josh Allen, and didn't do anything with him. Was dreadful with Josh Allen. That'd be fair, rookie year, but he was not good in his rookie year. So, want to blame him for that? I don't know. But then he went to the passing game coordinator for the Ravens. And their passing game is pretty much dismal. People calling out their plays. They don't know what's going on. Their best receiver is probably Willie Snead. So, not good there. So, I think he's experienced. He knows Andy Reid. But just because you know Andy Reid doesn't mean you make you a head coach. He never has experience as a head coach. So, I think this was just a strange hire. Very strange hire.
Yeah, it just shows that the front office and the upper management is just not really listening to anyone else, and they're doing what they want. And that's not. And when you're a promising young quarterback with Hall of Fame talent like Deshaun Watson is, you got to get out of there. So I just for his sake, I hope that he gets traded, and I think you would agree with me there too.
I mean, you look at this. I mean, this might have been the only coach that would have accepted this job because Cooley's getting up there in age. He's not going to get another chance to be a head coach. So you're giving him the opportunity to be a head coach. I'd accept that, no matter how terrible an organization is. So
Yeah.
even though they have Jack Easterby, who's been ruining this franchise, I mean, I think that this was probably the only coach that would have said yes. They hired Lovie Smith to be their DC. All right. I mean, he was not a good head coach, but he's been a solid coordinator throughout his career. He's up there in age, but the staff is just going to come in here and they're just going to like fix the culture, I guess. They're just going to try to instill some identity in this team because there's no developing. There's no players to develop on this roster. So, Deshaun, please leave. Don't let them keep you. Do whatever it takes. Get out. Just retire. Just pull a Carson Palmer and retire.
Dude, just Texas, Houston, you lost Harden. You're gonna lose Watson. I'm not a baseball guy. That's more you, but aren't the Astros in some controversy too? I know
I'm not the biggest baseball guy either, but they lost their best player, I think.
Yeah, so it's pretty sad there in Texas. So moving on to Philly, they kind of did a little flip flop with the Colts, where their offensive coordinator went to Indianapolis as their head coach, and Indy's offensive coordinator Nick Sirianni is now their head coach. And Frank Reich was really the mastermind behind Philly's offense in their Super Bowl run. And even though Peterson got all that credit, it was really Frank Reich behind the scenes, similar to how Shanahan was for Dan Quinn. But I would not say Sirianni was like that in Indianapolis at all.
It's Frank Reich's offense. I mean, that's like saying Pete Carmichael is the mastermind behind the Saints offense. No, it's Sean Payton. Sean Payton's calling the plays. He's the offensive guy. That's what he's going to do. This is a desperation move. This is pure and utter desperation. You see what happened when you lost your best coach. You kept the wrong guy, and you're paying the consequences. You're trying to chase the past, which is never a good sign. I mean, you should never be out there chasing the past because what's happened is gone. Like I just don't get this. Doug Pearson. I don't think he's a good coach. He was ruining Carson Wentz. His play calling was hindering Carson Wentz. It was playing into his weaknesses. So I think that was just never should have happened. He's been ruining them. But then if you're gonna fire someone that has that prestige of being a Super Bowl winning coach, you'd think that they had their guy in mind. And I don't know if Nick Sirianni was the guy they had in mind because, I mean, they look at the guys that interviewed Dennis Allen. I mean, fine. Bieniemy, Todd Bowles, Joe Brady, Gerard Mayo was a bit of an interesting one. Josh McDaniels, Kellen Moore is very strange. Saleh, Arthur Smith, and Brandon Staley. So I think they wanted to get Smith or Saleh, didn't get them in time, and they're paying the price because they're admitting they messed up. They're chasing Carson Wentz, and now they're admitting that they might want to trade Carson Wentz. So you're bringing in the guy to fix Carson Wentz, and then you're going to remove Carson Wentz. And then they hired their quarterbacks coach. I forget who they hired, but it's someone who's worked with Jalen Hurts for years. So they're trying to like placate both sides of the equation. Like, all right, Jalen, you're our guy. Carson, you're our guy. They can't both be your guy.
No, Wentz says, like he said a couple days ago, that he wants out. Like he made it publicly official that he wants out of Philly. So
you messed up. You hired the guy to fix him. He looked like a fish out of water in his press conference. He tried talking about simplifying the offense, but still making it complex while contradicting everything that he's talking about because he doesn't know what he's saying. I mean, it was like an Adam Gase type conference. It was not good. Yeah. But I just think it's just it's an admission of defeat, and they're admitting that they messed up, and then they're trying to fix something who doesn't want to be there. So you didn't hire the best guy available. You didn't hire the guy to fix the one because you're going to get rid of him. And you're hoping that he has somehow absorbed all of Frank Reich. Like, this is the Sean McVay equation. Like, we've seen it work out. Matt LaFleur has been a great coach, but he wasn't that great in Tennessee. But we saw that he's learned from Sean McVay. He's been able to carry that to a team. But then you have the guys that was with him for 1 year. Zach Taylor, he touched Sean McVay. Now he's got a job and he looks like a fish out of water because he's not a good coach.
Yeah.
So I think Sirianni is more of a – and Frank Reich's not Sean McVay. I mean, I know Frank Reich's a top 10 coach in the league, but Sean McVay is something special. So I think that Frank Reich should have been the guy they kept. They messed up. This would be like the Falcons trying to hire Mike LaFleur. Or Matt LaFleur. What's his brother's name? The one that went to the Jets. I think it's
Mike. Yeah, it's Mike.
Mike LaFleur. So I think that'd be like the Falcons trying to hire Mike LaFleur to be their head coach after they lost Shanahan.
Yeah.
Not a good move. I mean, that might have worked out. I think Mike LaFleur is probably better than Nick Sirianni, but it's just not a good look. He was the quarterback's coach. He got promoted offensive coordinator. I don't know. I don't like the hire. What do you think, Ishan?
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of it either. I think that there were some better options. Just looking at some of the names that they had available: Dennis Allen, Eric Bieniemy, Todd Bowles, Joe Brady, Gerard Mayo, McDaniels, Saleh, Arthur Smith. So I think that you have two very talented quarterbacks in Hurts and Wentz, and one's got to go. But you need to make that clear. You can't be like, oh, we're going to do something to benefit Wentz, but we're going to do something else to benefit Hurts. You have to pick one or the other and let one go so you can get assets back. And now that Wentz has publicly wanted out, they should really be going all in on Hurts at this point and, trying to create a system around him because he's a very talented quarterback. They need to now get the right coach, the right system, the right supporting cast to make this team successful again. Because there is a good bit of talent on this team. It's just not harnessed the right way.
So they fired Mike Graw as their OC, who was it was an ineptitude of play calling last year for them. They were forcing it deep, and that was exactly what was wrong with Carson Wentz's decision making, and they just weren't allowing him to be able to. They were allowing him to play into his makeup, prove that you were the guy on every pass mentality. So who they hired to be their OC, I thought was a really good hire, was Shane Steichen, who worked with Justin Herbert last season. And I will talk about this ad nauseum. Justin Herbert is a exponentially better NFL quarterback than he ever was in college. Like, I watched every snap he had in college. He was not a great quarterback. He had the potential, he showed the ability, but his decision making, he just didn't trust his instincts. He was hesitant. He wasn't decisive. He didn't trust his instincts enough just to make the throw. In the NFL, completely different player, all the confidence in the world, trusting his ability and just making plays. Like, he's become a better passer because he's decisive and instinctual rather than being rigid and systematic. So if Steichen was responsible for that, could have been. I don't know too much about how much development the coaching staff does in each situation. Like, it's hard to predict that kind of stuff. But if Steichen was responsible for that, imagine what he could get out of Wentz, getting him to stop being systematic. But, oh no, Wentz wants out. He would have been perfect to help Wentz become instinctual again, to become a more fluid passer, and to trust his instincts instead of trying to, prove that you're the guy. But anyways, I think he'd be good with Jalen Hurts anyways. So I think that was a good hire. Overall, just an interesting move for the Eagles. I don't think they're going to be competing anytime soon, though, which is a bit of an issue. So I think we'll move on to our next hire.
Yeah, I think that Hurts is the long-term option. He's still very talented, and there's a lot of talent on this team, but unfortunately their Super Bowl window has closed, and I think they're going to be out of the playoffs for at least the next 3 to 4 years.
Well, with that division, we'll see.
Yeah, that's true, but I'm not sleeping on Washington, so yeah. But moving on to Jacksonville, we have Urban Meyer. he has been a college coach at Florida, Utah, and Ohio State his entire career and has never had any NFL experience. And while there have been a lot of coaches that can make the seamless transition, there have been a lot more failures. So, what do you think about Urban Meyer?
All the Jags moves are very, very strange. Urban Meyer's a winner, and he has won at every level that he's coached at in college. Never been an NFL coach, and he's coming into the worst environment. And he does not handle losing well. He has not lost much. He's going to be losing a lot. A lot. Like, if he loses 8 games, that's an accomplishment. So, I think that it's going to be about mindset with him. Can he stick it out for the long haul? Is he going to be able to coach for more than a year? Is he going to be able to want to coach this team? I think he's a good coach. I don't think there's any doubt about that. I just think that you look at what he can do and what direction he can take the team in, and then if he can even stick around. I think that's just a big issue. So he's going to be entrusted with Trevor Lawrence, and probably. So you just look at is he can be able to get the most out of him? I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, he got the most out of Dwayne Haskett, so I mean,
that's impressive. But I think my issue with Urban Meyer is what you said. How long will he want to be in Jacksonville? And when you have a young quarterback that has so much potential like Trevor Lawrence, do you really want Lawrence learning a completely new system in 2 or 3 years early on in his career when he's still getting acclimated into the NFL? So I think that Urban Meyer pans out, great. He has a winning mentality who will bring a winning culture to a team that has only had one real deep playoff run back like 2 or 3 years ago and have endured a massive collapse. But on the flip side, he could just not adjust very well to the NFL, and he could really mess up Trevor Lawrence's first stage of his career.
I mean, Jimmy Johnson was the last college quarterback to come in and actually be a successful NFL coach. And then the big advantage with bringing in a college coach to the NFL is that first year of scouting in the draft.
That's true.
Because what you have is you have been scouting these players every week as a head coach, but Urban Meyer hasn't been coaching the past 2 years.
Yeah.
So he doesn't have any of that expertise. He doesn't have any of that knowledge that he would have had as an in-depth coach, say as Ryan Day has at Ohio State right now. He doesn't have that knowledge of the college game as in-depth as he could have if he was a college coach coming out and this being his first year straight after college, like say you hired a Lincoln Riley or something like that. So I think that it's not a great move. It's better than what they had in Doug Marrone, but I don't think that it can boom and it can bust. We'll say that.
Yeah. It does help bringing a big name like Urban Meyer, especially in the South, especially in Florida. Everyone knows who he is. At one point, he was like God to them, but at the same time, lack of experience. He hasn't, or I'm not saying lack of experience in the NFL. He hasn't coached in a couple of years, so the benefits of getting a coach straight out of college aren't there. So I think it's fair to have him as our third worst coaching acquisition.
Yeah, and then another thing is locker room dynamics. At Ohio State, you could be like, I'm the highest paid guy here. You have to respect me because I have more experience than all of you. I know things you don't. You're a college student. You don't know this game. I know everything. You have to listen to me because I have respect. In the NFL, he still has that respect of being a great college coach, but he's not the richest guy in the room. I mean, like, Nick Foles would have been the highest paid guy 2 years ago. Like, I mean, you're not going to have that same respect, and then players may not listen to you, and I don't know if his disciplinary methods are going to work. So it's a fine hire. I think it's the best they can do. I wouldn't have thought a young coach would have come in here and been successful with this team. So I don't think Urban's going to think of himself as a bridge guy, but he might end up being a bridge guy. But as for their other hirings, wow, they were awful. So they hired Trent Baalke as their GM. He's the guy that ruined the Niners before Shanahan and John Lynch got there.
Mm-hmm.
So he's the one that destroyed that franchise from being a Super Bowl contender to being garbage in like 1 year. He whiffed on plenty of picks. A.J. Jenkins in the first round of 2020, Michael James in the second round of 2012, Tank Carradine, second round 2013, overpaid on players like Vance McDonald, Selleck, over a combined $50 million on those two. Reggie Bush, 4 years, $16 million. Troy Smith, 5 year, $40 million. Not a good head coach. Not a good GM, I mean.
No.
And then you look at the guy they're entrusting with Trevor Lawrence, Darrell Bevel. I mean, when your best endorsement is that you're a nice guy, I mean, it's not a great endorsement. So he was in Seattle and he moved to Detroit. But he was poor in Detroit, and you'll hear the quote from like Adrian Peterson that he said that I don't know why they stuck with him for so long instead of DeAndre Swift. Swift was much better than me. I mean, he's the one that was making that decision. He's been terrible. He's been ruining Stafford. So I don't know why they thought this would be a good hire, but he's going to be interested with Trevor Lawrence. So good luck.
Yeah, it's Jacksonville. They're not the smartest front office, and they've had a lot of issues. But I think, in particular, Trent Baalke was not a great head coach or great GM, and he had a big rift with Jim Harbaugh, and then he just axed him. So
Like, he
I'm
was
afraid,
a great coach.
yeah, he let him first 3 years, NFC Championship, Super Bowl, NFC Championship. And those NFC Championship games were down to the wire too. They're down to a possession, a field goal, and a interception. So I think that if something goes wrong with Urban Meyer, even if Urban Meyer turns out to be a good coach, but if Baalke doesn't like him on a personal level, bam, you could have your young quarterback of the future have a new head coach because you're being petty and you don't like an already good head coach for personal reasons. So I'm not really loving this guy.
No.
So we're going to move on to LA, and we have Brandon Staley, Rams defensive coordinator. The Rams just came off of a really good defensive season. I think they were top 5, or at least top 7.
They were the number one defense.
They were?
The Rams were the number one defense. Yeah.
They were? Oh, wow. So they were the number one defense. There's Aaron Donald there. There's Jalen Ramsey. Jalen Ramsey kind of had a career season looking like himself back in 2017. So what are your thoughts on this? Because the Chargers defense, just from a player standpoint, just from a roster standpoint, you have Joey Bosa, you got Ingram, I know he wasn't that great, but Kenneth Murray has some promise. And then if he returns back healthy, back to his old form, Derwin James was great. So
I have no doubt about that. He is the best safety in the league when healthy.
love that guy. But yeah, give me your thoughts on Staley.
I believe he's from the Vic Fangio tree. One of the best defensive coordinators of all time. I mean, that might be a bit strong, but he's a really, really good defensive mind. So he comes from that tree. He was in Denver. Then the Rams hired him, led the best defense in the entire NFL with some average players. Like, they had 2 stars, Donald, Jalen Ramsey, and then the rest of the guys, like, what is it, Darius Williams, the corner they have?
Darius Williams.
I mean, he got the most out of his players. Great defensive coach.
Especially in the front 7.
And then you go to a team where you have the best secondary in football, in my opinion, where you can have Chris Harris. Oh, they traded away Desmond King. That's right. Chris Harris. You can have Casey Hayward, Derwin James, Nasir Adderley, I believe.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I mean, they have a great secondary. And if they had Desmond King, they would have been the best. So a top secondary, 2 elite pass rushers, a good safety, the best safety in the league, in my opinion. Young, promising linebacker, Linval Joseph, and Jerry Tiller in the middle. Like, this defense, if it is not top 3, you have failed as a coach. So, high expectations for Brandon Staley, but I have the faith that he can do that. Reason why I have this hiring so low, it is never a great idea to hire defensive coordinators to be head coaches. And let me explain. First, let's look at the NFC Championship games. You had 3 offensive guys and 1 defensive guy. That one defensive guy just happened to have a really special offensive coordinator in Brian Daboll, Sean McDermott, and he just happened to be a really awesome defensive coordinator or a defensive mind. So, 3 best coaches in the league. I mean, I don't know Bruce Arians, but like the 3 coaches that made it to the end. You had LaFleur, you had Arians, you had Reed, and you look at the quarterback, the teams that got knocked out: Sean Payton, Sean McVay, Kevin Stefanski, and then Mike Tom. Well, not Mike Tom. They lost in the first round. John Harbaugh, special teams guy. So 1 special teams, 1 defensive coordinator, and 6 offensive guys. You look at teams. If you're really good with a offensive head coach, they can't hire away your offensive coordinator because you are the offensive coordinator. Like, has anyone tried to hire Pete Carmichael? No. Has anyone hired Eric Bieniemy? No. If you're a good offense and you're the offensive guy and you're the head coach, they're not going to take your guy. If you're a defensive coach like Dan Quinn and you have a really awesome year, oh, tough luck. You lost your offensive coordinator. You've got to find a whole new offense. Entirely new offense. Changing an offense is hard. Like, changing a defense is easier, but changing an offense is really hard. So if you're good with a defensive head coach, say goodbye to your offense. What do the Chargers have? A great quarterback prospect. What do you need for a great quarterback prospect? A great coach. Who did they hire to be their offensive coordinator? Joe Lombardi, the quarterback's coach for the Saints, who was a terrible coordinator for the Lions before he got hired. Hopefully he got that Sean Payton magic instilled into him. But, I mean, I don't think that's a great hire. I think they probably would have been better keeping their guy that went to the Eagles. So I think that not a great selection by them to go with defensive guy, but they hired a great defensive coordinator. I can't knock this move. It's a solid hire, but I just wish they hired someone better than Joe Lombardi to be the mentor and be the guide for Justin Herbert.
Yeah.
I mean, he's already really good, so he doesn't need that much development. But if you want to have, like, I'm not going to say it's Patrick Mahomes, but if you want to elevate a quarterback to be the best version of themselves, Patrick Mahomes has who? Andy Reid. Drew Brees had who? Sean Payton. Tom Brady was really good this year. Who did he have? Bruce Arians. I mean, I'm not the biggest Bruce Arians fans, but I mean, he had a good year. Aaron Rodgers.
Look at
Matt
Shanahan.
LaFleur. Yeah, Shanahan. I mean,
He made Jimmy
coaches.
G look good.
Exactly. So what do you think about Brandon Staley and the rest of the hires?
Yeah, I think from a talent perspective, just what he brings to the table for such a good defense, he has it. Like, being able to transform a Rams defense into the number 1 unit, and then also being able to make guys that failed on other teams to become, competent and good players. Look at what he did with Leonard Floyd. He had like 9.5 sacks. Look at what he did with Dante Fowler. Atlanta paid. I'm not going to get into it, but I do think that Joe Lombardi was not the right choice. I think there were some better offensive options out there, but we're going to see how they do with it. And maybe Lombardi does surprise. He still was under Sean Payton, and maybe he does help the growth of Justin Herbert. So moving on, we have the Detroit Lions, and they hire another Saints guy, big man Dan Campbell, who had one of the funniest, one of the greatest press conferences I've seen in the NFL.
I mean, I don't know. I don't think he's a great hire. For context, I think Staley's a better hire, but as I said, the offensive thing. I mean, if you're Detroit, I think you're just going to take a winning year. Like, you'd be fine if you had 1 year of winning football and then you lost offensive coordinator. I think I'd be fine with that. But let's talk about Dan Campbell. He was the interim head coach for Miami. I think he went like 6-9 or something. Not anything special. He's been in New Orleans for a while. He's been the assistant head coach. I mean, that title doesn't mean that much, but it just shows you have a lot of responsibility at that organization and that you're trusted. He's been the tight ends coach, so he's been working with the likes of I'm pretty sure he worked with Kobe Fleener, Jared Cook, Adam Troutman, Josh Hill, some solid guys. He was a tight end himself. He played for Detroit. But what I think is so great about this hire is that instead of going from Matt Patricia, you're going to the embodiment of Detroit. Like, Dan Campbell is Detroit. Like his personality is perfect for the city. Um, I don't know how great he'll be as like a play caller, but I think his character is just it'll be completely different from what they had with Patricia. I think the players will respond to that. Um, I think that he's a personable guy. I think that better than Joe Lombardi, obviously. So I think he's got the ability to be a good head coach. He's the leader, and even if he's not calling plays. He brought in some good hires. Defensive coordinator Aaron Glenn, someone who he was the secondaries coach for the Saints, someone who Sean Payton has repeatedly said will be a head coach someday. Like high praise, very high praise from Sean Payton. Aaron Glenn is a great coach, and we'll get into who the Saints replaced him with later on. We talk about just random hires we want to talk about. Offensive coordinator Anthony Lynn, someone who has been a head coach, so he's bringing in experience and he's bringing in potential. I think this is a nice blend. I was a big Anthony Lynn fan until he was dreadful last season, but his problem was play calling and time management. He's a great offensive mind. He's a former running back. He understands the running back position. He'll get them instead of DeAndre Swift, their most talented offensive weapon, because they're going to lose Kenny Galladay to free agency, I believe. I don't know if he's going to resign or not. They might tag him, but anyways, he's their best offensive, maybe Hawkinson, one of their best offensive weapons. Campbell will be able to work with Hawkinson. I think that overall, solid hire, be able to steer the ship. My problem with this hire is it's a 6-year contract. So someone who is inexperienced as a head coach, doesn't have a proven track record, and you're going to give him 6 years? Like, 6 years is the admission of, we can't find anyone to sign for us. Please sign for us. We'll give you 6 years. Like, if I want to get someone a 6-year contract, I'm going to give it to someone like Kyle Shanahan, who is very proven as a play caller and as a offensive genius. So that's what I mean. The length is a bit concerning because he's so unproven and that he doesn't have a track record of being a great offensive play caller, and that's what you're going to have him probably be doing as a head coach. I don't know if he's going to be the John Harbaugh type of just being the leader of the team and being the leader of men type head coach. He could be a great leader of men. I mean, I want to go to war with him. He's talking about biting kneecaps off. So I'm already sold. So he's a great leader, I would imagine. And I think that he'll be a solid hire for them. What do you think, Ishan, about Motor City Dan Campbell?
Yeah, I think he really is an embodiment of the city, of the culture there. And I think that he'll do a lot of good things. I think his staff will really help because if they keep Galladay, you have Swift, you have Johnson, you have Peterson, you have Galladay, Hawkinson, and then you have Jared Goff is a downgrade over Stafford for sure, but he's not the worst quarterback in the league.
He's not a good quarterback. He's like he's not
a good quarterback, but
he's a quarterback. He's a quarterback.
He's a quarterback. But I think Anthony Lynn will get the best out of him. And I think
Sean McVay couldn't get the best out of him. So I mean,
I don't know. I think I still have faith in Goff.
I don't know why you have faith in Goff.
I still have faith in Goff. I don't have faith in his contract. I don't think he's worth the contract, but I still have faith that he'll become average. So
that's a prayer because he cannot throw the football. So
he cannot. I remember people had him as an MVP candidate a couple years ago.
He put up some good stats for Sean McVay because Sean McVay's an incredible coach.
Yeah, but I think that this is a step in the right direction. And if they draft well and if they don't, give out bad contracts like they've done before, Trey Flowers, I think that, this team could make the playoffs in a couple of years. Their playoff window is still pretty tight, and I don't think they'll come out of the division anytime soon. But as Aaron Rodgers starts to decline a little bit, as Minnesota had a rapid decline, and as Chicago still figures out their quarterback situation, maybe in a few years, Detroit could capitalize on that a little bit.
Maybe so. I think the Jared Goff trade was great for them. They maximize the value for Stafford because they're taking on a contract. They're taking on a contract pretty much like the Browns did with Brock Osweiler. And anyways, I think that what they did is great. 2 first-round picks Very solid.
Yeah.
And then, you know who executed that Brock Osweiler trade? John Dorsey, who is now the executive. Uh, what's his title? He's the senior personnel executive for the Detroit Lions. I mean, exact same strategy.
Solid.
So 2 first-round picks and a third for Jared Goff, who can be a serviceable
Replacement.
fill-in bridge
Yeah.
quarterback, a bridge quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
I think that'll be a solid move for them. And then they brought in as their who they bring in as their GM. Let me pull it up real quick. Oh, Brad Holmes, very good hire. He's the scouting personnel for the Rams, so he's worked with Jared Goff. Maybe he saw something that Sean McVay didn't. But he's been a very great drafter. Cam Akers, a great pick in the second round. I mean, he hasn't had any first round picks to work with, and he has had. This is a list of all the stars he's drafted in like the past 3 years. Cam Akers, Taylor Rapp, Cooper Kupp, John Johnson, Joseph Noteboom, John Franklin, Meyer, Tyler Higbee, David Edwards, Micah Kaiser, Jordan Fuller. Like,
Yeah.
he has been a great job of drafting. The Lions need a lot of help in the draft. I
Now
think
they
Brad
have
Holmes,
picks.
John Dorsey, not bad.
Oh, pretty solid. So moving on to New York, Robert Saleh, who has been the leader of, when healthy, arguably the best defense in the NFL in San Fran. What does he bring to this Jets team that has a couple of solid pieces like Quinn Williams?
I think this Jets defense was really turning it on at the end of last season. And I think that what he can do for this team is going to be great. Here is the moment where you're going to break away. Like, these are the two better hires.
Yeah.
Smith and then the next I've ruined it. Salah and Smith. So I think that those are the two best hires. I think maybe Staley might be on the same level as Salah, but he's not the same kind of leader as Salah is. I think he's a really good coordinator. I think Salah is just a good leader.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll talk about I kind of grouped their whole coaching hires together with their coordinators because I really like the offensive coordinator hire, Mike LaFleur. I already talked about it. So, first of all, let's talk about Robert Saleh because he has been an incredible coach for them. I mean, he should have been the Browns coach. I mean, the Browns decision-making process of Kevin Stefanski, I mean, it worked out for them. I'm not going to deny that. I wasn't a fan of it. But they picked the loser of the divisional round game between the Vikings and the Niners. So, like, all right, who loses this game, we'll pick them. So Saleh has been a great leader. He has coached one of the best defenses in the league. The 49ers had as many as 8 starters missing at times, and Saleh finished with the 5th defense in DVOA in football last season. So,
Yeah.
pretty insane. He lost Sherman, he lost Bosa, he lost Chris, D Ford was missing for a while.
D Ford was missing. And they didn't have Buckner.
Oh, that was really stupid. I will never forgive them for that.
Watch Eric Armstead win Defensive Player of the Year next year.
Dude, the fact that I kept Eric Armstead for DeForest Buckner was really stupid.
I'm going to put all my money on Eric Armstead.
And then you look at guys like Deshaun Watson, who want to go from a 4-12 team to a 2-14 team just because of Robert Saleh. Like, that's the kind of personality he is. He's a leader. He's a great coach. So only qualm with this hire is the fact that he's a defensive guy. And that fact that's my only qualm is pretty impressive. Then we talk about Mike LaFleur, brother of obviously the LaFleur in Green Bay, Matt LaFleur, who has been very, very good. He's been learning from Kyle Shanahan, the top 3 offensive mind in football.
Yeah, for sure.
You have Peyton, Reed, Shanahan, McVay. Those are like the 4 top tier guys.
Wait, in that order?
No, I'm not saying in that order, but those are the top 4 guys. I don't think there's any question that there's anyone else in that top 4.
No.
He has been absorbing that system. His brother's in the McVay system. He's in the Shanahan system. I think that he'll have some great success with this team. I think that what Sam Darnold needs, if they're to keep him, is great coaching. Because, I mean, I'm not the biggest Darnold fan, but he has potential. My only qualm about not liking him is that there are so many respected NFL people that think Darnold can still be the guy. That still think that Darnold can have that potential. And that's one of the reasons why I was so bullish on Pat Mahomes, is because I heard all these reports coming out of training camp of how awesome and how special he was. And you hear stuff like Sean Payne saying he was the best player he's ever evaluated. Like, I listen to what coaches say when I'm evaluating players because I don't know much. I try and learn, but they get paid to do it. They're better at it. I trust their opinions. So I think Sam Darnold could be fixed with a good coach. I think Mike LaFleur could make Darnold a top 16 quarterback in the league next year, maybe. But anyways, Zach Wilson would be awesome here. Justin Fields would be awesome here. Trey Lance would be awesome here.
Or you take Sewell.
Penei Sewell would be really awesome if you wanted to protect your man Darnold. Trade back maybe one spot. Someone wants to come up the quarterback. Not real much, but the Dolphins. We'll cut that out.
Wait, what was that?
It's the trusty light blocker.
Can we please include that at the end?
Sure.
Yes.
Don't worry about it.
Is that what Phil?
Yeah.
Like the third time someone's fallen in here today.
I've been trying to block the sun.
Well, did this fall? Because this is going to hurt the furniture. What just fell just now?
What is that?
From up there?
Yeah.
And on its way down, what did it hit?
I don't know.
Will, okay, one, now this is busted. It's not as funny as you think it is, Will.
What happened? Yeah, I just think LaFleur is going to be a great coach for them. I think they can go to many directions. Keep Darnold, trade Darnold, draft a quarterback. I think this team has a lot of potential. Denzel Mims looks great. Their offensive line is looking a lot better this season than it has in the past. Still needs a lot of work, but this team is not as bad. It was a pretty interesting destination, I think, for like coaches. And I think that's why I saw he could have picked the team he wanted, and he picked the Jets. So I think that he made a very good decision here. I think that this might be a really good hire. I think that my concern about a team taking their offensive coordinator and Mike LaFleur, if they have a good season, I think Jets fans would be happy with just one good season. Like, if you tell them, we'll go to the AFC Championship game and you lose offensive coordinator, they'd be like, please, I don't want to go 12-14 anymore, or 2-14 anymore. I will take a winning season for anything. So, reason why I didn't like that with the Chargers is because the Chargers have a lot of future. They got a lot of hope. They have a great quarterback. They have potential. They need to be going all out. So I don't think that going all out, you're going for one season. You're going to have a very short window if you go with a defensive guy versus an offensive guy. So that's why I think that this hire is so much better than the Staley hire, as well as personality-wise, because I think as terms of defensive minds, they're not too dissimilar. I think they're both pretty equal in terms of production, how much they've done.
It's all he's like the players love him. He's a very loved guy, so that helps a lot, especially with a young organization.
And you gotta remember, CJ Mosley's playing this like second ever game for the Jets now, next season.
Yeah,
because he opted out. So that'll be a big issue for them. Mm-hmm. This defense I expect them to be top 10 next season because Quentin Williams looked really good. Marcus May, our boy Ashton Davis. I mean, they've got some pieces. They look like they're coming together.
Yeah, for sure. So finally, we are back in Atlanta, and we have done a lot of things wrong, but Arthur Smith just came off of coaching, being the offensive coordinator for the number one offense in the league, the offensive player of the year, 2 really good receivers, some solid tight ends, and making Ryan Tannehill look good. So I think that he can do a lot for this offense, given that you have the best receiver tandem in the league. Matt Ryan, while he is declining a little bit, he still puts up great numbers and is still pretty good. I think that they got to work on the run game a little bit, maybe Najee Harris in the third round, but I think that the offense is there, and hiring an offensive-minded guy. The last time we did this, actually, no, Mike Smith was the defensive guy. So yeah, this is the first time in a long time that we've hired a offensive-minded guy, and I think that it will do wonders for this team.
First thing about Arthur Smith, he could have waited as long as he'd like to become a head coach. He could have waited for the perfect opportunity because, unlike most coaches, he doesn't care about money. He is the richest coach in the entire NFL. Maybe not even the richest, just personnel in the entire NFL. His dad, founder of FedEx. So
yeah, that was crazy. I did
he
not know that.
does not need to wait on anything. So he could have waited for the perfect opportunity. I don't know if the Falcons were the perfect opportunity per se. They got a lot of problems when it comes to cap and future, but a good destination, I think.
It's cool. It's cool.
He chose you guys, so that tells you a lot.
Yeah.
You look at Tennessee's last offensive coordinator, Matt LaFleur. They were not a good offense with Matt LaFleur. They were like a top 20 offense with Matt LaFleur. Like, they weren't anything special. But with Arthur Smith, he's just brilliant. He knows how to get the best out of his players. He knows how to understand personnel. Like, he is not a running guy. Like, he's a passing guy. And he's like,
yeah, for sure.
We've got Derrick Henry. Who cares? We're going to be a running team now. Like, he understands personnel. He understands how to use it. I think that Calvin Ridley, Julio Jones, this could be scary what this guy can do with them. I think that the Falcons have
two
really
top 5
missed.
receivers in the league. Okay, one top 5, one top 7.
Top 10.
Top 7.
Top 10.
Top 7.
10.
Okay.
15.
Okay. Whoa. Okay. Adams, Hill, Jones,
Thomas, Jefferson.
Thomas. Okay, fine. Jefferson and
Allen Robinson.
and then Hopkins, and then I'll put Ridley. I'll put Ridley over.
Allen Robinson.
I'll put Ridley over
Keenan
A-Rob.
Allen.
I'll put Ridley over Keenan.
All right, you're crazy, Mr. Fun Diggs.
Oh shoot, Diggs. Okay, 8. Oh no, 7 or 8. Okay, top 10. Fine. Top 10. Top 10.
All right, so he's a great offensive mind, and then look at who he brought in: Dean Pease, an incredible defensive coordinator. Got him out of retirement to come coach with him in Tennessee. Or I don't know. I
think he came out of retirement for Atlanta.
He came out of retirement for Atlanta. I've been reading the stories wrong, but anyways, I think that's a really good hire for them. I think that you look at what he's done for them and what he can do, like what he's done for like his defensive ability is really impressive. So I think it's a great hire. Dean Pease. So Pease was the top defensive coordinator or one of the top defensive coordinators in the past 15 years before retiring ahead of 2020. So he was the Ravens DC in 2012 when they won the Super Bowl, and Tennessee's defense fell apart without him in 2019. So really great guy, really great coach.
Yeah, for sure.
He's 71, but I mean, it's like when Sean McVay had Wade Phillips, like young guy. I mean, he's not that young, but new head coach needs experienced defensive coordinator. Like, you can't do anything risky. I mean, I think it's a really good hire.
I thought it was great, to be honest.
And then you have Dave Ragone as your OC.
Yeah, but Arthur Smith's going to be calling the plays.
I was about to say, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, like, it's fine.
But if you want to know about him, he was the passing game coordinator for the Bears last season. So
yes.
Didn't have much work with, but, not great.
Not amazing.
Terry Fontenot as GM. He was the third highest ranking guy behind Mickey Loomis and Jeff Ireland in New Orleans. Very important in personnel decisions, and they have been one of the best front offices in the NFL.
And he's a scouting guy, right?
He's a scouting guy. But
That's
Jeff Ireland's
perfect.
the main scouting guy. He's the genius behind the Saints scouting department. Loomis is the cap wizard. Ireland is the scout wizard. Fontenot's kind of just good scout. I
That's
think he'll
fine. After your 2017 draft class, I will take anything.
Yeah. So he was behind that 2017 draft class with Ireland, where they had Lattimore, Ramczyk, Marcus Williams, Alvin Kamara, Trey Hendrickson. Insane draft class. Those are 5 all-pro players, at least Pro Bowl players.
Yeah, I'll say Pro Bowl.
That is insane. Drafted Michael Thomas in the 2nd, Onyemata in the 6th. Really impressive stuff. Eric McCoy in the 2nd. So you are hurting an enemy by taking one of their high-ranking front office officials, which is always good for a team to hurt your enemy. But you are taking their 3rd highest-ranking guy, so you will always have a worse front office than them. Just saying. So it's a good hire, but you will never have the best front office if Jeff Ireland is still in New Orleans, because Jeff Ireland is the magic. He is the goods. But Fontenot, great hire. I can't knock anything for that. Falcons had a really, really good offseason so far, and might continue.
I don't know. Come draft time, I'm still a little torn between drafting a quarterback or trading back and getting like a Micah Parsons. But we'll see what Dean Pease says, because I think that Parsons really is the only defensive player that I would take as high.
Yeah.
That I would take top 7, to be honest with you.
I completely agree.
Like, Surtain's good, but I'm not sold on him being a top 10 pick. Gregory Rousseau is a freak, but he has like 0 technique, and the majority of his production came on the inside, not even on the edge. So I'm a little skeptical about him. So it's really Parsons, to be honest.
I agree. I think that was a really, really Parsons is the only really like top defensive prospect in this draft.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think that if you wanted to get someone defensively, that'd be the guy that you want to look for. I think what's his name, Fairley for Virginia Tech's pretty interesting as a pick.
Yeah, I heard he's pretty good.
And then I also like Surtain, but obviously I think you want to be in the teens drafting those guys rather than 4. So really good opportunity with the Falcons. I hate to see it, but they had a good one. Other notable hires I wanted to mention.
Let's see. There was
Panthers
one
hired
Saints.
Scott Fintner as their GM. I thought that was a good hire. Rams hired Raheem Morris as their DC. So they're just going from good DC to good DC. Sean Wade Phillips to Brandon Staley to Raheem Morris. I think another really good hire for them. The Saints hired I just forgot his name. Chris Richard. He was defensive coordinator for the Legion of Boom with the Cowboys. He's a great inspirational leader, motivator, decent tactician as well. He could be the secondaries coach for the Saints. I think that's a good replacement for Aaron Glenn. I think Aaron Glenn's probably better.
The Cowboys hired Dan Quinn as their DC.
That was an interesting hire. I don't know how much I like that hire, but interesting. No. Anything else? Broncos hired George Patton as their GM. I thought that was a really good hire. Raiders hired Gus Bradley as their DC. Interesting hire. Another one of those Seattle guys, I believe.
Yeah.
Anything else of interest?
I'm not too sure that there are. So
I think there is, other than like firings, like Jets firing Greg Williams.
Whoa, shocker.
Whoa.
But I think that's really it for now. So that wraps up our NFL coaching and coordinator hiring analysis. We went through the worst, David Culley, to the best, Arthur Smith.
Had to get that in there.
Let's see how these coaches fare out. I think we can have a guy like Urban Meyer shock us, and we could even see someone like Brandon Staley disappoint us. So we'll have to see how these coaches fare out, and we'll see how they do in terms of drafting as well. This is a very interesting draft.
Well, mainly those GMs. Oh, we can touch a little bit of the GM hirings. What else was there?
There was
Caserio, Patton, Brad Holmes, Fittner, Fontenot. Oh, Washington football team hires Martin Mayhew. So he was a 49ers executive. So not a bad hire. But that's it.
They hired the Panthers guy.
Oh, he was the former Panthers GM.
Marty Herney.
Oh, high-ranking front office role. Marty Herney's the high-ranking front office role, but Martin Mayhew's going to be the head coach, or the GM.
Oh, okay.
So decent stuff by them. Go football team.
All right. That wraps it up. My name is Ishan Chef. Alongside me, as always, is William Ezel. And that was our NFL coaching and coordinator and GM analysis. See you next time.